What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. I just wanted to make a quick video with some of the free agency rumors going around here. I actually noticed a potential storyline for this upcoming season that seems pretty interesting to me. Might happen, might not. Just wanted to talk about it here. So a lot of the quarterback free agency stuff going on. Sam Darnold just signed with the Seahawks. Geno Smith going to the Raiders. Justin Fields to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers gone from the Jets. It's seeming like Aaron Rodgers is going to the Steelers. Don't really know why, which means, you know, and they already put this out basically in the news cycle weeks ago, but that's indicating that Russell Wilson is not going to go back to the Steelers. They don't want him back. Apparently this Aaron Rodgers thing is like heating up. People really want him for that there. Got that from multiple sources. We see them meeting with the Louisville quarterback that I'm going to be honest, I wasn't even familiar with. Didn't see any draft stock hype about him at all whatsoever, but it's becoming increasingly clearer that they have alternate plans for a quarterback. You know, they completely blew it with Justin Fields. They relied way too much on trusting Russell Wilson, and it seems like the Tennessee Titans might be making the same mistake here. So we have ex-Steeler Russell Wilson negotiating with AFC rival. According to sources, I don't know who these sources are, but let's just call it a rumor for now. The Tennessee Titans are apparently negotiating with Russell Wilson. Not in talks, not meeting with him, not having some private workout or anything like that, negotiating with him. That means something in place, right? That means really leaning into him as an option for starter. Now, this is a little bit interesting because according to, you know, the draft projections and all this stuff, Cam Ward, you know, it seemed like the Titans were pretty high on him. It seemed like they were going to take him in the first round. They still might, you know what I mean? But with Russell Wilson's ego, and I'm familiar with this, trust me, and just the trajectory of his career, you know, it's very unlikely that he takes a cheap deal, right? Very unlikely, at least to me, that he settles for a backup spot. You know what I mean? I think that he's going to want a starter position for lots of money, right? Like, I definitely imagine that he's going in there thinking, I'm doing you a favor by being your quarterback of your poverty franchise, because the Titans, you know, obviously did not do well last year, and they don't have a ton of options at quarterback. We'll get into that here in a second, but I have to imagine that he's going to demand a good amount of money and probably at least a couple years. I can't see him going for a one-year contract after how it worked out in Pittsburgh, even though he got the favorable, you know, position there. He had pole position the whole season to the point where Justin Fields could start 4-2 and Russ could take that from him just to shit the bed against any defense, but whatever. You know, if you've done any normal amount of research, any actual research, and you don't just watch the press conferences like, oh man, Russ just seems like such a jolly guy, like a lot of people do. If you like look into his backstory and you look into how he behaved in the locker rooms of all these past teams, how he conducted himself, how these other players feel about him, you know that he has a massive ego problem that's kind of been kept under wraps. You know that he's very concerned about his reputation and stuff like that. So with his ego, I just wanted to warn any Titans fans, I don't even know, this might not even happen, but just in case, really for any team that signs him, any fan base, but especially now, seeing like they're in negotiations right now, Titans fans, beware, do not get hyped. Prepare yourself for pain, because no matter how bad you thought it was, Mason Rudolph or Will Levis, it can get worse. Trust me. I don't care what you think, the Super Bowl success, any of that stuff. Last offseason, after the Broncos cut him and he went to the Steelers, I had to deal with the constant dunking on my team, saying the Broncos just didn't know how to use him. Sean Payton just didn't give him a chance. Neither of those things were true. In fact, the Steelers went on to use Russell Wilson exactly the same way, and we saw how well that worked out for him, right? Justin Fields was the sole reason that they got to the playoffs. And personally, I'm of the belief that if they had been consistent and if you had given Arthur Smith the quarterback that he wanted, which was Justin Fields, the whole way through, they would have at least gotten to the divisional round, in my opinion. That's what I predict. We'll never know now. There was that whole narrative throughout the offseason, and then eventually Steelers fans realized that the Broncos fans were trying to warn them that Russell Wilson does not know how to play quarterback. So this is just a warning to Titans fans. Don't fall into the trap. Do not assume that Broncos or Seahawks or Steelers fans don't know what they're talking about when they say that Russell Wilson is going to make your team even worse. If you think it's bad now, I am not kidding. Now again, as Titans fans, I know you guys are probably like, well, we don't have much better options. You know what I mean? Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, you know, I'll take Russell Wilson. I'll take the Super Bowl quarterback, right? But again, that's the exact same trap that Broncos and Steelers fans fell into. It doesn't matter how bad your quarterback situation is. It doesn't matter how bad it has been. He hasn't been the solution for any team for the past almost half decade now. You will just be another team on the list. He has so many problems. He has an unlimited amount of problems. Mr. Unlimited Problems. He cannot read a defense. He creates his own sacks. It doesn't matter how good the O-line is that he's behind. He will create his own sacks. He will scramble out of a perfectly good pocket for no actual reason. He'll step up in the pocket when he doesn't need to, and then throw his O-lineman off and then allow a defender to come in. He'll throw interceptions against all odds. He'll fumble against all odds. He can't run. He can't see over the lineman. Can't throw over the middle, at least comfortably and consistently. He can't do any of these things. People get so hyped up over the deep ball that most of the time he doesn't even connect on. So many people just look at his stats and check like the highlights of games that he won, and then they're like, see, he did good last season. That's exactly what the Steelers did. Like, see, he did good in 2023. The Broncos just sucked. The coach just, yeah, Sean Payton just didn't know what he was doing. The coaches let him down. They didn't give him a chance. Meanwhile, Sean Payton started off the season taking him to dinners, taking him and his wife out to dinners, taking them to Denver Nuggets basketball games. Broncos country just fucking cheering for him in the stadium, right? Everyone was so welcoming. They did a whole promotional series of videos of Russell Wilson checking out the facilities at the Broncos stadium, all of this stuff, like the other players greeting him, all of these things. But Steelers fans didn't know that at the time because they didn't want to believe it. And now the Steelers have already made it clear that they don't want him back, right? So they're having to pick up the pieces from that, from trusting him, taking the job away from Justin Fields, who they have now also lost because they didn't trust him, and they wanted so badly to give it to Russell Wilson for him to carry it the rest of the way, and he couldn't do it, obviously. The Broncos had the whole offseason that I talked about. We had to prove ourselves. We did. We have our team now, like, already improving. We have, for the first time in a long time, a first round and a second round and a third round and a fourth round pick. I didn't have a second round pick last year. All of this because of the Russ trade and the fallout from it. We're finally in a good spot now. We took the third youngest team in the NFL to the playoffs, 10-7, when everyone said we were going to be the first overall pick, 0-17, and this is all because we made the hard decision to cut Russell Wilson and make it somebody else's problem. Then we look at this Titans depth chart. They're kind of in a similar situation that we were at before we took on Russell Wilson, that created that desperation, right? And then you'll notice a couple interesting names on here. First of all, right inside linebacker, Cody Barton. They just picked him up this offseason. He was with the Broncos. He was a great addition. I'm kind of sad that we lost him, but I imagine it was because of contract stuff. I imagine these guys on the Broncos staff had their eyes on, other linebackers. Linebacker is a position that we wanted to upgrade on the whole offseason. Everyone was talking about it. It was one of those situations where you don't draft for it, you just pick it up in free agency. So he probably asked for more than they were comfortable with, but he was a great player. You guys got a good one there. What you'll also notice here is that he played on the Seahawks during the end of Russell Wilson's tenure there. So they have a shared history there, and they are both former Broncos, now going to potentially be reunited on this team. Now, what's interesting about this predicament is if Russell Wilson goes to the Titans, we're not only going to be going up against Russell Wilson when we face the Titans, but also Cody Barton as well. If you didn't know, the Broncos 2025 opponents includes all of the AFC South teams, so we will be having a matchup against the Titans at some point. I can't remember if it's a home or away game for us, but normally, not to be condescending, but this is a matchup that I would shrug off. I never expect anything from the Titans, especially not wins. But now with Russell Wilson, not expecting him to ball out or get wins for the team, like I said, but it creates a bit of an interesting matchup there that I'm more looking forward to. Last season we were supposed to go up against the Steelers because we went up against the AFC North, but it ended up being Justin Fields, not Russell Wilson, because he had a convenient calf injury that prevented that revenge matchup from happening. So we didn't really get the Broncos versus Russell Wilson matchup that we deserved and wanted, and we didn't get it in the playoffs either because of the way the seeding worked out, but we might be getting it this year if Wilson does actually stick with the Titans and he's starting around that time. We'll see, which means we can finally get this revenge game going, and I'm so excited if it does. Now, in terms of the Broncos going up against opponents where key defenders, like really great defensive players, actually ended up going in free agency after being cut because couldn't afford them anymore because they were asking for too much money, similar to what I assume happened with Cody Barton here. Last season we had to get rid of Josie Jewell. I think that was because we had to get under the cap requirements because, again, Russ contract stuff fall out, and he ended up going to the Panthers, who we, dominated. We also had to unfortunately get rid of safety Justin Simmons, who ended up going to the Falcons, who we also dominated. So I have to assume that history is going to repeat itself with one of their better defensive players on their team here being one of our guys. We know how he plays, we know how they'll likely use him. It's going to be a lot easier for Bo Nix to pick apart this defense when you got guys over there that he's used to going up against during Broncos practices. So it's just one of the small benefits of going up into this matchup. You just have those little things there that'll likely help make this, revenge game go down smoothly for us. Also, just want to mention here, Lloyd Cushenberry, the center on the offensive line, also former Bronco, that I believe we also had to get rid of because of cap purposes. He is now on the Titans, so a lot of former Broncos here. If Russell Wilson goes there, he is going to be, under the exact same center that he was in 2023. Again, the Broncos offensive line in 2023 was ranked top 7. It was a top 7 O-line. Russell Wilson managed to create 45 sacks for himself. 15 games, 15 starts that season behind a top 7 O-line. 45 sacks. So I imagine Cushenberry is just like, please don't sign him. Please don't sign him. That being said, who knows? Who knows how this could work out? All of these former Seahawks that worked with Russ, all these former Broncos that have experience with Russ or just have something to prove by going to another team, a worse team, to get more money from the winning team that they couldn't get money out of. They might gel well together. I don't think that Russ has the leadership, again, like I said, to take a team like that and lead them for the better, but we'll see. I'm never the type to be overconfident in sports because a lot of tough talk and then you lose and then it's like, oh, now you look stupid, right? Every single person that was hating on the Broncos in the 2024 offseason, now they look stupid, you know what I mean? Because the team heard all that, internalized it, and used it for motivation to get to the playoffs. Broke this record, right? This streak of being out of the playoffs for almost 10 years, not having a positive record for 10 years. All these things. You can easily see that, like dunking on the Titans while they're down. Well, all the things that they can do in the offseason, all the practices that they, I don't want to be overconfident about this, right? So let's speak to the qualities of the Titans right now. We got to evaluate this defense and the pieces that they've picked up right now, because I'm looking at my list here. I have like specific names that I picked out from this depth chart, and they have guys. They got guys like Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, Cody Barton from us, Quandre Diggs, who was with the Seahawks again, like Cody Barton, who he's going to be working with again, was there during the end of Russ's tenure, right? So you got these guys working together again. You also got guys like Tavondre Sweat, who, oh my gosh, just like starting off his rookie season right, I think, what was he? Oh yeah, 2nd round pick. And he just, if you look up his highlights, he had some great plays throughout the season. Truly underrated. Great defensive tackle. I think he's been a great pickup for you guys. We also got to talk about Amani Hooker, who's just been, he's great. Consistent. He's been on this team for forever, and it's because he keeps producing. He's just a solid guy. Not to mention some of these offensive pieces here too, like Tony Pollard, obviously, great running back. Also got Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd. Like these are great receivers and route runners here. I just don't, again, think that you can consistently rely on Russell Wilson to get the ball downfield to these wide receivers. So a lot of the time it's going to be a handoff to Tony Pollard. And again, that's something that we've seen before, right? Steelers fans said that the Broncos didn't know how to use Russell Wilson, and then Arthur Smith had to use him the exact same way, which is through a hindered offense. When you have a quarterback who, like I said, can't get the ball downfield, just takes a deep shot randomly, Hail Marys it 1% of the time, and then only half of that 1% does he actually get a completion because the receiver makes a great catch against all odds, but then he can't comfortably or consistently throw over the middle, can't see over the middle because of his height. Not his fault, but it's a disadvantage. You have a guy that cannot navigate the pocket, has no pocket awareness or presence whatsoever, constantly creates his own sacks, lets his O-line down, lets his O-line take the slander for his mistakes, cannot run, isn't a mobile quarterback at all anymore, and really wasn't that great in the first place. Like, let's be honest, in his younger years he made some good getaways, but like his scramble ability has always been suspect. He will wander out of a perfectly good and clean pocket trying to make something happen, trying to see downfield instead of just taking the shot to the running back who got out or the tight end who has a hook route right in front of him. He won't do it. When you have a quarterback like that who cannot get it down the field, cannot get the ball out of his hand, cannot complete a passing play to save his life, what you often have is a bunch of handoffs, a bunch of run plays to try and make up for the lack of passing plays that you cannot call because it's not going going to get the ball downfield. You have to run it. We saw that with Najee Harris last season. We saw it with Javonte Williams the season before. You'll call a million plays running it up the middle into the O-line because that's literally the best you can do. And then eventually the defense starts to catch on. Oh, they really can't do anything. They really can't. I think they even laid it out on Hard Knocks that Russell Wilson has no middle game. He has no medium game. It's either completely deep down the field or a handoff. That's it, right? A lot of the time what he'll do is a lateral pass or a pass behind the line of scrimmage or a handoff. That is it. That is all he can do. And when every defense around the league knows that that's what you're going to run, eventually the run game becomes stagnant because you can't get it downfield. There's no mystery as to what you're going to do. So they can stop you immediately, which means you're not going to be able to score any points. So you can't pass, you can't get it downfield, you can't run it downfield. Quarterback's getting sacked beyond reason, managing a rare interception every once in a while, completely by surprise, fumbling it when he starts to run for no reason. And suddenly all these offensive pieces that you have, Tyler Boyd, some great receivers, a center that he's worked with before, none of it matters because it's not getting downfield because your quarterback can't do anything. So I'm very, very interested to see how Titans fans feel about the possibility of having Russell Wilson. I know it might be exciting because it's like, okay, well, anything right now is better than nothing. I would rather have that than Will Levis. But I guarantee you're going to be pulling your hair out because you hoped for more, and then you're going to be like, wait, how did this happen? Pay attention to the seasons that came before because, oh my gosh, pain is in your future if you have high hopes for this at all. That being said, the potential Russell Wilson Titans Broncos matchup that we might get this year is very, very exciting to me. If they run with him, if they stick with him as a starter, I'm very interested to see what this revenge game is going to look like. Very interested to see how both he and Sean Payton handle it. Before all of this rumor stuff, I had no thought in my mind about beating the Titans. It was not even a thought to me. Now, if this actually ends up happening, I'm really excited to beat the Titans. That's just me. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. That is the video. Thank you for watching.